it's Laura from Doggy U, and I'm coming at you from Austin, Texas. And today we're gonna start a two-part series on flying with your dog. Today we're gonna talk about suitability for flying as well as training you can do to prep your dog before the flight. Next time we're going to talk about what to do the day before, the day of, and what to do during the flight with your dog. Let's get started. To start with, let's have an honest conversation about whether or not your emotional support animal or service dog is the right type of dog to be flying. Flying is a really challenging thing for any dog to do, and it's not fair for you to put your dog in a situation that they're not prepared for or they're just not a good fit for. So is your dog reactive? Do they growl, bark, become reactive at people, children, dogs, strollers, anything like that when they're in tight quarters? Are they uncomfortable in tight quarters and maybe they don't growl or bark, but they just, kind of shirk up and are uncomfortable with the situation? Are they afraid of loud noises? Are they afraid of vibrations, heavy vibrations? All of these things are going to happen on a flight and there's no way out once you get in the air. So if your dog is uncomfortable in tight quarters, if they're reactive or barky at all, if they're uncomfortable with loud noises or vibrations, your dog is probably not the right dog to be on a flight because you're gonna put them on a tin can next to 100 strangers and say, hey, you gotta hang out here for the next 4 hours. And that's tough on any dog. So first, let's really assess, is your dog the appropriate dog to be flying? If you have a service dog, you should be answering no to all of those questions. Your dog should be fine in public spaces with dogs, people, kids, and all of those things, as well as with loud noises. If you have an emotional support animal and not a service dog, that's where you really need to make an assessment about whether or not your dog is appropriate for flying because they don't have the requirements of a service dog, as well as they don't have all of the protections of the ADA. They're not allowed in public spaces the way that service dogs are. So you really need to drill down and say, is my dog appropriate for flying, especially in a situation where they can't leave if it goes poorly? If you've assessed your dog's suitability for flying and think, yes, exactly, my dog is totally fine for flight, she has none of the issues that, she just went over, then you're ready to start training for the flight. Now, you're not going to be able to get on a plane in preparation, but there's a lot that you can be doing beforehand to get your dog prepped and ready for flight. At a minimum, you're gonna need some basic obedience. That means a leave it, sit, down, stay, come, and a good heel. When you go through security, you're gonna have to use all of those things to get your dog through and ready to get on the plane. When you go through security, you're gonna have to put your dog in a sit stay on the other side of the metal detector, go through yourself, and then call your dog through. If you don't have a solid stay, check out my full-length video below on how to get that solid stay anywhere. You're also going to have to prep your dog for the actual travel portion of the trip. That means teaching a close and a down and under. And if you don't have a down and under, check out my membership portal below and more information on that. Once you've prepped your dog by teaching a close and a down and under, you're ready to start traveling on different modes of transportation to get them used to what it feels like to travel in tight quarters and in a little bit noisier environment. You're gonna wanna start with traveling in the car right between your legs. Once your dog is comfortable and curling into a tiny ball at your feet, you're ready to start traveling via bus, subway, train, or whatever else will allow your particular dog legally to go onto it. Practicing on those modes of transportation can somewhat mimic what flying looks like. This will be your best approximation for what you can do with your dog before a flight. You're also going to want to practice your down and under and close in various locations such as restaurants, cafes, and other places where your dog is going to have to sit for a while and settle. The next skill that you're going to need is physical manipulation. So a lot of people don't practice having to push or prod their dog into a particular position because nobody likes to do that. But on a plane, it's likely that you're going to have to nudge your dog over or help them get under a seat, and you're gonna do that physically with your hands. So you don't want the first time for them to be physically manipulated in tight quarters to be on a plane. So practice moving your dog around a little bit just with your hands. The last thing that you can be training for before you get to your flight is public access. Does your dog go with you to Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, Barnes & Noble, Michael's, all those places that allow dogs to go in with you? You need to be bringing your dog there so that they can get used to working and doing their obedience in public. You don't want their first time being in a crowded area to be in an airport, because the airport's a really stressful environment and you're going to be stressed and feel rushed. So you're going to want to prep your dog for those situations before you get there. Now, if you have a service dog, you've been prepping for that forever. But you have an emotional support animal, you need to take those opportunities to go to those stores, parties, places where dogs are allowed to be, and go ahead and practice your obedience in those places. So if you've deemed that your dog is a good candidate for flying and isn't going to be a risk to anybody in public, and your dog is going to be comfortable doing it, and you've practiced all your obedience, and you've done a lot of public access work, and you've traveled around with them on different types of public transportation, then you're ready to sign up for your first flight. Stay tuned for next week when we talk about what to do the day before your flight, the day of, and during your flight to make your ride as positive as possible. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you have questions, comment below and I'd be happy to answer them. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. And happy training!